I walked into that waiting room wearing a white coat with my name embroidered above the pocket. Dr. Irene Caldwell, Chief of Trauma Surgery. My mother saw it first. Her hand went to her mouth like she'd been struck. My father's face did something I'd never seen before. A complete system shutdown, like his brain couldn't process the information standing 3 feet in front of him. They thought I was a dropout living on the streets. I was about to save their other daughter's life. The daughter who spent 5 years making sure they'd never know I existed. Let me be clear about something before we go any further. If someone in your family erased you for half a decade, intercepted your letters, blocked every attempt at contact, then showed up bleeding out and needing you to save them, what would you do? Because 40% of people say what I did makes me a saint. 40% say I missed an opportunity for real justice. The other 20% can't decide if I showed mercy or delivered the cruelest punishment possible. I need to know which side you're on, because it changes everything about how this story ends. The pager went off during my shift review. Level 1 trauma, multi-vehicle accident, internal bleeding. 30 seconds later, my direct line rang. Dr. Caldwell, we need you. The family specifically requested our chief of trauma surgery. She paused like the next part didn't make sense. The patient's name is Monica Caldwell. My sister. The same sister who told my parents I dropped out of medical school to live with a dangerous boyfriend. The same sister who convinced them I was homeless, desperate, too ashamed to tell the truth. She did it with tears in her voice, with the concern of an older sister who'd tried everything and finally, reluctantly, had to tell them I might hurt myself. And they believed her. Not because they investigated. Not because they called Boston University to check if I was enrolled. They believed her because believing her was easier than questioning the daughter they'd always loved more. That was 5 years ago. I graduated top 15% of my class. They thought I was living under a bridge. I got married to an attorney who makes me laugh even during 30-hour shifts. They didn't know I'd found someone who saw me when they couldn't. I became chief of trauma surgery at 32 years old, and they never knew I'd become a doctor at all. Because Monica made sure of it. She intercepted every letter I sent, set up Google alerts for my name, and scrubbed any news that might reach them. She monitored their mail like a security system designed to keep me out. Every few months, she'd reinforce the narrative at family dinners. I wonder if Irene ever got herself together. I hope she's okay wherever she is. She played the concerned sister so well, she started believing her own performance. And my parents. Gerald and Diane Caldwell, both educated people, both capable of basic critical thinking, chose the comfort of the lie over the effort of finding the truth. Until the universe put Monica's life in my hands. So I stood in that waiting room with 11 witnesses scattered across the chairs. A man with a neck brace, 2 women holding hands, a teenage boy with headphones, a hospital chaplain near the coffee station. They all went quiet when I spoke. Mr. and Mrs. Caldwell. Not mom, not dad. The formality landed like a scalpel cut. Your daughter is in critical condition. She has a grade 4 splenic laceration with active hemorrhaging. We need to operate within the next 20 minutes or she will not survive. I let that sit for exactly 2 seconds. I'll be performing the surgery. Do you have any questions? My mother tried to stand. Her legs didn't work. My father caught her elbow and said my name like a question. Irene? Dr. Caldwell, I corrected. He looked like someone had rewritten reality in a language he didn't speak. You're a doctor, he said. His voice came out thin and confused. I'm a surgeon, chief of this department. I've been a doctor for 3 years, a surgeon for 2. I watched his face process information that shattered 5 years of certainty. This hospital gave me Physician of the Year last month. The awards committee tried to contact you. The invitation was returned unopened. The man with the neck brace looked up. The teenager pulled off one headphone. My mother whispered, Monica told us. Monica lied. The room got so quiet you could hear the fluorescent lights humming. And you believed her, I continued, letting each word find its target. For 5 years, you never called the medical school, Never asked for proof, never questioned why every letter I sent came back unopened. I took one step closer. You blocked my calls. You missed my graduation, my wedding, my best friend's funeral. You chose the easy story over the true one, because the easy story didn't require you to admit you might have been wrong about the daughter you preferred. My father started to speak. I cut him off. I have scans to review. Monica's surgery starts in 18 minutes. I'll update you when it's done. I turned to walk away. My mother's voice cracked behind me. Will she be okay? I stopped, looked back over my shoulder. I'm very good at my job, Mrs. Caldwell. Your daughter is going to live. Not because she deserves it, because every patient deserves my best work. Even the ones who spent 5 years trying to erase me. The chaplain's pen froze over his notebook. I walked out. Behind me, I heard my mother start to cry. One of the women who'd been holding hands said it loud enough for the whole room to hear. That's the most savage professional thing I've ever witnessed. I didn't disagree. Here's what you need to understand about Monica. She wasn't evil, she was terrified. I figured that out later when I had enough distance to see the pattern clearly. She was 30 years old when I got my acceptance letter to Boston University School of Medicine. She'd spent her entire life being the successful one, the daughter our father looked at with pride, the son that the rest of us orbited. And then one Thursday in March 2018, I became something she couldn't compete with. Our father. A man who measured worth and achievement and had never admitted he was wrong about anything in his entire life. Looked at me differently for exactly 4 months. Monica had basked in his approval for 3 decades. The idea that she might have to share it, or worse, that I might earn something she hadn't, that was a threat to the only identity she'd ever built. So she made a calculation. 1 phone call, that's all it took to destroy me. She told them I'd dropped out, that I was lying about why. See, I'd taken a semester leave to care for my roommate Sarah, who was dying of stage 3 ovarian cancer. It was documented, official, signed off by my academic advisor Dr. Margaret Thornton personally. Family comes in different forms. Irene, go take care of yours. I called my parents from the hospital, told them everything. My mother said, of course, sweetheart, do what you need to do. I thought I had their support. Monica was gathering ammunition. She told them Sarah's cancer was a lie, that I was involved with someone dangerous, that I was too ashamed to admit I'd failed. She cried when she told them. Used the voice of a sister who'd tried everything and was finally, reluctantly coming to them because she was worried I might hurt myself. And they believed her without checking a single fact. I found out on a Tuesday, October 9th, 2018. I was walking out of Mass General after an overnight with Sarah. She'd had a bad night, and I was tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. My phone rang, my mother's number. I answered expecting her to ask how I was doing. Instead, Irene, we can't keep doing this. Monica told us everything. When you're ready to be honest with yourself, we'll be here, but we can't enable this anymore. The line went dead. I stood on that sidewalk while the world continued like nothing had shattered. A woman walked past with a dog. The coffee shop put out their sandwich board. The sun kept shining. I tried calling back 14 times over 3 days. Blocked. I sent emails with my class schedule attached, with letters from Dr. Thornton, with hospital documentation showing Sarah's diagnosis and my role as her medical proxy. 2 emails, both with attachments that proved everything. Neither was opened. I sent a physical letter, 8 pages in my handwriting, explaining everything, begging them to just look at the evidence. It came back 2 weeks later, unopened. Monica's handwriting on the return label. She'd intercepted it from their mailbox and forwarded it to an address I didn't recognize. She'd built a system to keep me erased. Sarah died on January 3rd, 2019. There were 6 people at her funeral. My academic advisor, Dr. Thornton, 2 nurses from her oncology floor, a cousin from Vermont, a woman from her book club, and me. My parents didn't know she'd died. I'd stopped trying to tell them anything. I graduated from medical school in May 2020. There were 3 empty seats where my family should have been. Dr. Thornton sat in the front row. She'd been showing up for 3 years by then, being the mother my own mother had decided not to be. I got married in October 2021 to Nathan Reynolds. His father walked me down the aisle because mine had blocked my number so thoroughly I couldn't have told him even if I'd wanted to. I sent an invitation anyway. It came back unopened, same handwriting on the return label. For 5 years, I built a medical career that made me chief of trauma surgery at 32 while my family thought I was a failure. Some people say I should have shown up at their house with proof. Others say that would have been begging for acceptance I never should have needed to earn. Then there's a third group who say none of this would have happened if I'd just chosen medical school over Sarah, if I'd just let my friend die alone. I've never been able to fully argue with that third group. What do you think? Drop this. 1. If Monica is the main villain. 2. If my parents are the real villains for believing her without question. 3. If I made this worse by not fighting harder to prove the truth. The comments on this part are always the most brutal. I read every single one. The surgery took 3 hours and 40 minutes. Grade 4 splenic laceration, active arterial bleed, significant hemoperitoneum, the kind of case where every decision has to be right the first time because there's no margin for error. In another surgeon's hands, they might have just removed the spleen entirely. Faster, safer, less risk. But I'm not another surgeon. I spent 90 additional minutes doing a partial splenectomy with splenic preservation. A harder surgery, a longer surgery, but Monica would keep 60% of her spleen function. Better immune response long-term, better quality of life. I saved the organ that tried to kill her in the body of the sister who tried to kill me. My hands never shook, not once. When I walked out of the OR at 11:47 p.m., my parents were still in the waiting room. They'd been sitting there for 4 hours. My father's face looked like he'd aged a decade. My mother had shredded a tissue into pieces so small they looked like snow on her lap. I pulled off my surgical cap. The surgery was successful. We preserved most of her spleen. She'll be in recovery for 2 hours, then ICU overnight for monitoring. I kept my voice clinical. Barring complications, she should make a full recovery. My mother stood. This time her legs worked. Can we see her? Not yet. I'll have the ICU nurse call you when she's awake enough for visitors. My father said my name again. I cut him off the same way. Dr. Caldwell, in this hospital, that's who I am. He flinched like I'd struck him. The nurse by the door looked up from her phone. She'd worked with me for 2 years and had never seen me be anything other than kind. Now she was watching me deliver mercy wrapped in surgical steel. My mother tried again. We need to talk. You need to wait for your daughter to wake up. I said, letting the distance in that phrase do its work. I need to finish my shift. This conversation isn't the priority right now. But, Mrs. Caldwell. I let the formality land again. I have spent 5 years not being your priority. You can spend 4 more hours returning the favor. I walked away for the second time that night. Behind me, the chaplain said something quiet. My mother's crying started again, softer this time, the sound of someone realizing exactly what they'd lost. 3 days later, Monica woke up fully, the anesthesia fog cleared, and the nurse told her who'd performed her surgery. She asked to see me. I declined. She asked again. I declined again. On the 4th request I went, but not because she'd earned it, because I had something to say that required her to be conscious. She was in a private room on the surgical floor. Afternoon light came through the window at an angle that made everything look softer than it was. IV in her left hand, drain coming out of her abdomen, the kind of pallor that comes from trauma and blood loss. I stood at the foot of her bed, didn't sit, didn't come closer. She said, "You saved my life." I said, "I did my job." Irene. Why? She looked away like she'd been expecting a different question. I don't know. That's not an answer. I was scared. She whispered, and for the first time in 5 years her voice sounded like something real. You were doing something I couldn't compete with. Dad was looking at you differently. I thought if you succeeded I'd disappear. So you made me disappear instead. She didn't argue. That was the first honest thing she'd done. For 5 years, I said, stepping closer but not close enough to touch. You intercepted my letters, you monitored their mail, you reinforced the lie at every family gathering. You convinced two people to erase their daughter because you were afraid of not being the favorite anymore. I know. Do you? I let the question hang. Do you know what it's like to have your best friend die and not be able to tell your mother? To get married without your father there? To achieve everything you ever worked for and have no one who's known you your whole life witness any of it? Her hands twisted the blanket. She was crying now, but I wasn't done. You turned me into a ghost, I said. And the worst part is that they let you one phone call. That's all it took. They didn't question it. They didn't verify it. They just believed you because believing you was easier than thinking critically. They feel awful. They should. I said it without heat, just fact. And so should you. You're going to go home in 4 days. You're going to have a scar from this surgery, 7 inches just below your ribcage. I watched her absorb that. You're going to see it every single day for the rest of your life. And every time you do, I want you to remember that the person you tried to erase is the person who made sure you survived. She was sobbing now. I'm sorry. I know you are. You're sorry because you almost died and the person you destroyed saved you, and now you have to live with that. I pulled out my phone. But you're not sorry enough to have stopped if this hadn't happened. You would have kept going, kept lying, kept me erased, because it was working. What do you want me to do? I forwarded her an email I drafted that morning. You're going to send this to every member of our extended family, 47 people. You're going to explain exactly what you did. Not a soft version, not a sanitized version, the truth. I watched her read it on her phone. You're going to attach documentation proving I graduated medical school, proving my position here, proving you lied. Her face went pale. If you don't, I continued, I will. But it'll be better for both of us if it comes from you. You have 72 hours. Irene. Dr. Caldwell. I corrected one last time. We're not sisters right now. Right now, I'm your surgeon. And your surgeon is telling you that the first step to recovery is stopping the bleeding. I turned toward the door. You've been bleeding our family for 5 years. It's time for that to stop. I left before she could respond. 71 hours later, I received a notification. 47 emails sent, CC'd to me. Subject line, an apology and a confession. I didn't read them all. I read 3. That was enough. My Aunt Ruth called me that night. I always knew, she said. And I could hear something like relief in her voice. I just didn't know how to prove it until you did. You sent the birthday cards. Every year, and I kept copies of everything. Every article about you, every award announcement, every piece of evidence that the daughter my brother thought was a failure was actually thriving. She paused. I was building a file in case you ever needed it. Why didn't you say something? Would they have believed me over Monica? The question didn't need an answer. Some lies are only broken by truth that can't be denied. You became that truth. The consequences for Monica came slowly, then all at once. My cousin Emma stopped inviting her to family events, not because I asked, but because Emma had invited me to her wedding 2 years ago and the invitation had been intercepted. She figured it out from the email. My Uncle David, who'd helped Monica get her first sales job, stopped returning her calls. He'd written me a recommendation letter for medical school that Monica told him I never applied. My grandmother, 83 and sharp as ever, called Monica once, said 3 sentences. You did something unforgivable. You cost me 5 years with my granddaughter. Don't call me again until you figured out how to live with that. Monica experienced what I'd experienced. Not the same scale, not the same duration, but the shape of it. The isolation, the understanding that actions have consequences that don't expire just because you're sorry. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. But there was something else too, something I didn't expect. My parents started therapy, both individual and marriage counseling. My father's therapist apparently told him that his inability to question Monica's story without evidence was a symptom of a larger pattern, a need to never be wrong that had shaped 30 years of parenting. My mother's therapist told her that conflict avoidance isn't peace, it's just delayed destruction. They asked to see me, I said no. Then no again. Then, on the third request, I said yes, but under specific conditions. We met at a neutral location, a conference room at the hospital. Not my office, not their house, somewhere with witnesses and exit signs and fluorescent lights that made sentimentality impossible. They brought letters, handwritten long. My father's handwriting shaking on certain words like he was writing in a language he'd never learned. I didn't read them in front of them. I took them home, read them once, put them in a drawer. The apologies were real. I believed that. But apologies don't erase 5 years. They're a down payment on a future relationship, not a refund on a past one. I told them exactly what reconstruction would look like. This is what it looks like if we try again. I decide when we meet, I decide how often, I decide what information you get about my life. I watch them absorb each condition. You don't get to have opinions about my choices, you don't get to offer unsolicited advice, you don't get to act like the last 5 years didn't happen. I leaned forward. You earn trust back in increments, small ones, over years, maybe decades. And if at any point you violate a boundary, we're done, completely. Do you understand? My father said yes. My mother said that was fair. It's not fair, I corrected. Fair would be you experiencing exactly what you put me through. This is mercy. Don't confuse the two. The first boundary test came 3 weeks later. My mother called to ask if she could come to an awards ceremony where I was receiving a commendation. I said no. Told her I'd let her know when she was invited to something, and this wasn't that time. She said she understood. Didn't call again for a month. That restraint, that evidence she'd actually heard me, that was the first data point that mattered. My father sent a card on my birthday. Simple, direct. Happy birthday, Irene. I'm proud of you. Dad. No phone call, no expectations. Just the thing I needed him to say for 32 years, offered now without strings. I didn't respond immediately. I waited 2 weeks. Then I sent a text. 2 words. Thank you. Small, but honest. Monica asked to see me outside the hospital. I said no for 6 months. Then in April, I said yes, but with conditions, public place, daytime. Nathan knew where I'd be and when to expect me back. We met at a coffee shop. She looked different, thinner, something in her face that hadn't been there before. Not exactly remorse, more like comprehension. The understanding that actions echo. She said, I'm in therapy. I said, good, I'm trying to understand why I did it. Have you figured it out? Some of it. I was 27 when you got into medical school. I'd spent my whole life being the successful one, and I'd built my entire identity around being the daughter they were proud of. She stopped, looked at her coffee. When Dad looked at you that day, I felt like I was disappearing. Like if you became something, I'd become nothing. So you made me nothing instead. Yes, that's honest, I said, and watched her look surprised. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's honest. That's the first step. Is there a step after that? I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. We sat in silence. She paid for the coffee. I didn't argue. When we stood to leave, she said something I didn't expect. The scar hurts sometimes, when the weather changes. That's normal. It'll get better. I don't want it to get better, she said quietly. I need to remember. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded. We haven't become close. I don't know if we ever will. But we're not enemies. We're two people who share DNA and a history and a permanent reminder that love without accountability isn't love. It's just enabling dressed up in familiar terms. Here's what I've never said publicly before. There's a part of me, a small part, but it's there, that understood exactly what Monica felt when she saw my acceptance letter. I've thought about whether that makes me complicit in my own erasure or just human enough to recognize that hurt people hurt people. I genuinely don't know. What I do know is that Monica did something last month I didn't expect. She showed up at the hospital with flowers. Not for me, for the nursing staff on the surgical floor, with a card that said, "Thank you for taking care of my sister while I wasn't." Now I have a question for you, and I want real answers, not what you think you should say. Was that gesture genuine or calculated? Because if it was genuine, my response to it might have been wrong. I accepted the gesture but kept my distance, thanked her but didn't invite her further into my life. And if it was calculated, my response was exactly right. I still don't know which one it was. Type 1 if you think it was genuine, type 2 if you think it was calculated, type 3 if you think it doesn't matter either way. The reason I'm asking: your answers are going to determine whether I share what happened in the 6 months after this story ends, because that's the part that actually shocked me. It's Sunday morning, May 12th. There's coffee brewing in the kitchen, Nathan's reading the paper at the table, the window is open, and you can hear the commuter rail in the distance. 6:47 a.m., like clockwork. There are 4 place settings on the table. 2 are for us. 2 are for my parents who asked 3 weeks ago if they could come for breakfast once a month. I said yes, with conditions. They show up on time, they don't stay longer than 2 hours. They ask before they hug me. They don't bring up the past unless I do first. They're learning to be guests in my life instead of architects of it. My father is arriving in 6 minutes. I can time it by the train. There's a photo on our mantle now. My medical school graduation, Dr. Thornton on my left, Nathan on my right, Aunt Ruth just behind us. The family I built when the one I was born into decided I didn't exist. My parents have never asked why their photo isn't up there. That question, the one they don't ask, that's the evidence I needed that maybe eventually we'll find a version of this that doesn't break anyone. The doorbell rings. Nathan looks up, I take a breath. My father is standing on the porch with a bag of bagels. My mother is next to him holding the kind of flowers you bring when you're trying to say something you don't have words for yet. "Good morning," my father says, and his voice is careful. "Is it okay if I help with anything?" The man who never asked permission is asking now. "You can set the table, Dad." He nods, steps inside carefully, like he's aware he's standing on ground that isn't guaranteed. This isn't a happy ending. It's something more honest than that. It's a beginning that knows exactly what it cost. So here's my final question, and this one matters more than all the others combined. If you were in that operating room with the sister who destroyed you bleeding out on the table, with every skill you'd fought to earn and every reason to let the surgery take just a little bit longer, what would you have done? Because I chose to save her with the same excellence I'd give anyone else. I chose mercy over justice, skill over revenge. And 40% of you think that makes me better than her. 40% think it makes me weak. 20% think the cruelest thing I did was letting her live with the weight of what she'd done. Which one are you?